Hey, what's up everybody? Hey, MP here, and today we're going to take a look at how to spin up HAXcms inside of Play with Docker. So Play with Docker is a really cool site where you can go on, create a new session, and it's going to allow you to actually create Docker containers right inside of a server that you don't have to maintain, and you can just easily throw it away. So let's check it out and see how easy it is to use. So we're going to go to labs.play-with-docker.com, and we're going to be prompted to either start a new session or log in. If it's the first time you've been here, it's probably going to ask you to register via the GitHub OAuth. And once you've done that and authenticated, you should be good to go. So we're going to click Start. And as you can see here, we have a new session. So you have a session for 4 hours. You can spin up new instances, which is you spinning up a new server on demand. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to go to Add New Instance. I'm going to bump up the resolution a little bit. There we go. So once you've created a new instance, you can see that we are now in a session on someone else's server. We have some information like the ID of the session. We have the IP address of the server, how much memory we're taking up, and even some credentials so that you could SSH in from your own computer. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to type Docker here. So go ahead in the terminal, type Docker, and you should see some output from the Docker application that's running on this server. So Docker is already pre-installed and ready to go for you. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to download the HAXcms image that is hosted on Docker Hub. So if you're familiar with GitHub, Docker Hub is a similar concept. Instead of repositories, they host images. So we are going to type docker pull and the name of the image, which is going to be elmsln/HAXcms. And what that's going to do is it knows that this server currently doesn't have that image. So it's going to go to Docker Hub and retrieve that image, download all of the image layers, which we won't get into right now. And once it's done doing that, it should say that we've downloaded the image and we can now use it. So to run a Docker image, we're going to use the docker run command. Now there are a bunch of different options for running a container. We're just going to keep it nice and simple. So for one, we're going to map this to a specific port. So whenever you run a container, quite often those containers have servers and some running processes in them that need to attach to a specific port. So you need to bind to some process that's happening inside that container. To do that, we're going to say we're going to bind, we're going to use the dash, I'm sorry, not the dash V, the dash P flag for port. And we're going to say we want to bind this host port 80 to port 80 that's running inside the container. So by saying dash -P for the P flag and the port number, which in our case is 80, colon what the port number in the container is, it will automatically bind the container's port to the host port, which is exactly what we want to do. That will expose the running process in this container to the outside world. Next, what image would you like to run? In our case, it's the image that we downloaded, which is elmsln/HAXcms. And once we do that, we should see the output from this running container. So what that did is it looked at the elmsln HAXcms image, and it created a container on top of that image. So if you can imagine, the image is this base layer, and you can spin up a bunch of different containers. If I wanted to spin up 50 of these HAXcms containers, I could just off of one image. which is what makes Docker so powerful. So we can see the output from this container. Now, how do we access the application? Well, you should see 80 up here. So that's the new exposed port that we just connected to that container. So we're going to click that. And now, voila, we see a new instance of HAXcms. What we're going to do, let me bump this up a little bit. So every time that you first spin up a HAXcms server, you will have some username and password information for logging into the server for the first time. Naturally, since we spun up a container that was based off of the HAXcms image, it's a brand new server right out of the box. So we're going to grab that password and we're going to click here to access your HAXcms site manager. So if everything went correctly, you should see the login screen here. So we're going to type admin, and then we're going to paste in the password that we copied on the previous screen. And there we go. So we are now looking at our HAXcms manager. So let me bump down the resolution a little bit. Okay, we're going to create it. We're going to click create. We're going to create our first site. Play with Docker. I'm going to hit create site. And we're going to do Command R to refresh the page, and we should see our site that we just created with the HAXcms manager. If we click on our new site, it should take us to a running instance of that site that we just created with some editing tools overlaid. There we go. We get a little message that says we're logged in. And if we wanted to start editing, we could do a little code sample. To prove that the editing works, copy to clipboard. Let's give it a little bit more padding here. Great. Okay. And we're going to save that. And there we go. So as you can see, using Play with Docker, it's a really easy way to start playing around with your Docker images.